Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome. What a week it has been. I'm Rabbi Benjamin Zober, and with me, of course,
Rabbi Sarah Zober. Welcome.
We are so glad that you have decided to bring in Shabbat with us, whether you are here in person or out there in internet land. Hello, internet folk. We are praying this evening, as we always do, out of Mishkan Tefillah. If you are virtual and would like a copy of our Siddur, you can download it at sinaireno.org/live. And if you are here in person, you likely have already been handed a book. If this is your first time here or it's been a while, just a quick reminder about how we tend to use this book. On the right-hand side of the pages, we usually have our traditional prayer in Hebrew, translation and transliteration. And on the left side, we have interpretive readings and meditations that we like to swap in to help keep things interesting and give us different ways to think about our prayers. Generally, we will pick from one of the two pages and then move on to the next. We will do our best to call out all of the changes, and hopefully people don't get too lost. If not, I will remind you that we do have an Oneg at the end, so as long as you find your way there, you haven't gone too far afield. We begin with a reading, a responsive reading, which can be found on the bottom of page 6. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
We would now like to invite up Crystal and Alina to
Leilani.
Yes, to light our Shabbat candles. If you would like to follow along, you can do so on page 2.
And you will be seeing a lot of this family. This is the 20th anniversary of your bat mitzvah, Crystal, and it is her birthday as well. It's kind of fun when the holidays all fall together, right? It did work out.
We got it. Okay, ready?
Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu b'ha'yiter Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. We now turn to the blue cards that you were handed. They might be tucked in the front of your book. On one side of those cards is the song Shir Chadash. It's a setting of Psalm 96, which is one of our traditional psalms for Kabbalat Shabbat in the evening, and we'll sing that at this moment. Shirul Adonai kol haaretz, Shirul Adonai shir chadash, Shirul Adonai kol haaretz, Shirul Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shirul Adonai
And we continue with Lecha Dodi, which can be found on page 20, as is our more recent custom.
As is
Tonight,
Rabbi Sar's custom to continually troll Bonnie and Marilyn with new verses of Lecha Dodi, we will be doing
1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Those are the odd verses for those of you who are so inclined. And when we reach the 9th and final verse, if you are able, we invite you to rise and turn to the entrance of whatever space you are in to welcome in the Sabbath bride.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Shama nezachor v'dibur echad Ishmi'anu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'shemu tiferet v'lim tehillah Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Mikdash melech ir melucha Kumitzeim mitoch ha'pecha Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha Vehu yachamol alaychem lach Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Hitorari Ki ba'oref kumi ori Uri shir daberi Kevod Adonai alayich nigla Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela V'hayu limshisa shosayich V'rachaku komevalayich Yasis alayich Elohayich Kimsos hatana kala Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Ovi v'shalom ateret bala Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Kabbalah. Lefadodi likrat kala, yadadai, 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 leShabbat Kabbalah.
You may be seated. And we continue on page 22 with Mizmor Shir.
I forgot to put that one in. Mizmor Shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot laAdonai, uzamer lashimcha elyon, uzamer lashimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot laAdonai, uzamer lashimcha elyon, uzamer lashimcha elyon. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי אסור, עלי נבר, עלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רונן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
We continue now together on page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach yirutei v'yamrich malchutei.
בחייכון וביום אחד ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב
V'meru
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי עלמיה יתברך.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha berichu leila min kol birchata v'ashirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamihiran be'alma v'meru.
Amen.
Turn to page 28 for the Baruch Hu, and if you are able, please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Adonai HaMevorach.
We continue on page 30 in the English together. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. We turn to page 32. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. The Shema can be found on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Aved.
You may be seated. We continue together with the V'ahavta, page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'belechtecha b'derech, u'shofecha u'vkumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, Uvisharecha Lamahan Tizkaru Masitam et Kol Mitzvotai Vitem Kedoshim Lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We turn to page 39. We read responsively at the bottom of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Mi chamocha can be found on the very next page.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha Nehedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osef ele, Nora tehilot, Osef ele, Malchutacha, Ra'u banecha, Bokei hayam, Lifnei Moshe, Zelianu ve'amaru, Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar kifel Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo mi'ad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Kal Yisrael.
We turn to page 43 and read at the top of the page, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Yismechu can be found on the next page.
Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbehu, Ve'yitangometu b'chashabat, Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidasho Shabbat. Chemdat yamim, oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh b'reshit Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh b'reshit Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei Oneg Shabbat.
At the top of page 47, we ask, pray as if everything depended on God, act as if everything depended on you. We turn to page 46, and if you are able, please rise for the Amidah. Adonai sivatar tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu,
Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagedol Hagibor Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chateamot Imahot, U'mevii Gula Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Me'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid HaTam, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Zohomet Noflim V'Rofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevuros, Umidom Elah, Melech Memit, Umechayem, Umatmiat Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atal HaChayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah Kadosh U'Kimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Ya'elu Chasela, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue silently to page 62. Please be seated when you are finished or when you feel ready. Oseh Shalom can be found on page 62.
Oseh Shalom Bimromah, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We turn now to our Torah service, Seder Kriyat HaTorah. We begin at the top of page 245. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. And it is my great pleasure to invite up Heather and Leilani and Alina to open our ark
Crystal, do you want to carry the Torah? Great.
and carry our Torah. And we turn to page 246. And if you are able, please rise.
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udevar mirush.
I need you to sing. Here you go.
Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato, Ma Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai Iti, Uneromama Shemo
Yachdav. Page 248. Lecha Adonai Hagedula v'Hagevra v'Eret v'Hanetzach v'Hahod ki Haaretz ki ho b'shamayim Haaretz Adonai Chol erosh. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol Shema Tehallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Kol Shema Tehallelujah,
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Maybe faded.
Should I go down and come back up?
I,
You want me to go down?
it's up to you. It's your moment.
I'll go down and then I'll come back up again.
As we said, in honor of this milestone birthday and bat mitzvah anniversary, it is my great pleasure to call to Torah Crystal Bartlett, Ta'amod Margalit Bat Tovia La'aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan manu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor shlacha anashim vayaturu et aretz Canaan asher ani noten livanei Yisrael ish echad limate avotav tishlahu kol nasi vahem vayishlach otam Moshe mimi bar paran al pi Adonai kulam anashim roshe bnei Yisrael hema.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Now don't you go anywhere. I have a little blessing for you. All good things. Misha be'erach avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak ve'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless you as you have come to Torah in honor of God and Torah. May you merit from the Holy One of blessing protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in your every endeavor. And together with all Israel, and let us say, Amen. This time with our Sefer Torah in our midst, we turn to our thoughts of those who need a bit of healing, those in our community and our world, whether it is healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. At this time, we are thinking of Wendy Alderman, Laura Ann Borsoff, Joan Brickman, Neil Calder, Laura Cohen, Jeff Gingold, Stephen Gould, Al Grossman, Marlene Harris, Harvey Higdon, Laura Jawad, Kevin Knox, Harav Miriam Yael Chaya Batsara, Tim Ober, Judy Ramos, Ray Riker, Shirley Rutkovitz, Sarah Bachava, Marianne Schenker, Helene Spinner, Jessica Wadatz, Bobby Wells, Asher Zelech, Rabbi Evan Yakar, everyone affected by the coronavirus and the Jewish and other communities of Ukraine. If there are other names that you wish to share, I invite you, if you are virtual, to share in the comments, if you are comfortable doing so. And if you are present, please, when my eyes meet yours.
Maddie Mayer, True Relief, and Burlington Dogs.
For all those names and the ones we are holding close to our hearts, our song of healing, Misha Berach, can be found on page 253. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habrecha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habrecha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And I would like to call up Jen and Brooklyn to address our Torah. And we all rise for Hagbah.
Come on up, ladies.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד משה. יאי די 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 די. יאי די 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 די. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד משה.
Can you help us by opening up the ark doors? Almost, not yet. We turn to page 257 as we read responsively. When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace. Its highest teaching is
Love and kindness. What is hateful to you, do not do to any other.
That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization.
Honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties. But the study of Torah is equal to them all, because it leads to them all.
Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. Middle of page 256. Etz chaim hi l'machazikim ba b'tomchecha meushar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuvah Chodesh Chodesh Yameinu Chodesh Yameinu Kekeden. You may be seated. Pro tip, don't breathe and drink at the same time. We are ending this week in a place where many of us have long feared to be. For the last 2 days, Supreme Court opinions have rolled out. The most recent one culminating in a full-throated repeal not only of abortion rights, but a pulling of the rug out from under all of our rights to privacy, including protections for contraception, IVF, same-sex marriage, homosexuality, and interracial marriage. We Jews, who hold the sanctity of a pregnant person's life as primary, are facing an America where we either must violate Jewish law, which tells us to protect a pregnant person's life, or violate American law if we live in a state where abortion is outlawed. And of course, all this came not even 24 hours after even more hearings, where we heard the truth of how close we came to having our country crippled by our own president. And those were just the biggest 2 headlines this week. We are, in many ways, in the midst of a worst-case scenario that likely would have felt unbelievable to consider just last week. It can be easy to feel that we are drowning when we're sitting here, when we can no longer look away from reality, nor pretend that some other force will come and swoop in to save us like the movies. It can be so easy to dissolve into despair or to explode in impotent rage when we are afraid of being rendered powerless, when we feel stripped from our agency or our autonomy. The Israelites in this week's portion feel that way. They are utterly terrified at their future and at the prospect of having to fight against what seem like impossible odds. The entire nation is standing right at the edge of the promised land. And Moses sends his scouts out to survey what will be the land of our future. And they come back with amazing bounty, grapes the size of your head, and a terrifying report of the strength and the prowess of the people already living in that land. We know the story, and it is a devastating example of violent colonialism in our texts. Caleb and Joshua tell the people to have faith that God is on their side, that we will be able to drive out the native tribes and conquer our land. And then we hear that God is angry at the fact that the Israelites are scared and despairing and once again begging to go back into enslavement in Egypt. After all, God says, aren't I on your side? Do you need yet another reminder of my power? The story continues that God angrily declares that for their lack of faith, the adult Israelites will die in the desert and, like Moses, will not be allowed to go into the promised land. But that's not all. Their children will be sentenced to wander in the desert for the 40 years that it will take the older generation to die because of their parents' sins. God then kills the 10 scouts who scared the Israelites and declares that of that generation, only Caleb and Joshua will be worthy of continuing on. The people, terrified, say, I'm sorry, we were wrong, and they start to get ready to go back into the land. Moses warns them that God is no longer on their side, and when they go into the land, they get destroyed by the tribes. The text tells us that God was not with them, and that's why their campaign didn't succeed. Many of our commentators and many of my colleagues are using this story this week to encourage us to have faith in God's hand in all of this terror and chaos. They're saying that when things seem impossible, we need to remember that God is with us and that we shouldn't despair. And I think that interpretation is dangerous, and it's bad theology. I think there are three things that we are meant to learn from this story, and very little of that has to do with God. First, this story explicitly cautions us not to listen to negative people who don't have a plan. The Israelites saw the 10 scouts with the bad report, and those bad reports drowned out Caleb and Jacob. Caleb and Joshua, thank you. Oh my gosh. Similarly, as you looked around and listened to the news today, you probably heard a lot of wailing and a lot of gnashing of the teeth and a lot of welcome to Gilead and a lot of we're doomed. Now, expressions of grief are real and they are absolutely valid. But healthy expressions of grief focus on the pain and the hurt so that we can honor our feelings and get back out there. We need to be naming the people and the institutions that are hurt by this injustice. We need to be expressing our sadness and our anger and our pain. We need to cry and we need to hold up one another. But we also need to be careful that our pain does not become the focus point of what we're doing. We need to be careful that blame doesn't become the focus point of what we're doing. We need to make sure that our crying will lead to catharsis and then healing, and not to despair or depression. We need to make sure that our angry wailing this week does not drown out or draw attention from the next steps that we know we need to take. Which brings me to our next lesson that we learn from this portion. Many people in this country have already been living in a post-democracy and post-Roe world. Many people in this country have already been fighting this fight for years. They have been getting ready for this moment while the rest of us may have assumed that our rights would always be secure. If this moment came as a shock to you, please take time to grieve. Feel what you need to feel, and then look around, because we have leaders who already have a plan. When the 10 scouts gave their terrifying report to the people that attaining the land was impossible even with God's help, Caleb spoke up alone. And he said, "Alo na'aleh v'yarashnu otah, ki yachol nuchala." Let's all go together and claim this land, because we can absolutely do it. While the other scouts were tearing down the people's confidences, Caleb spoke up to build them up. And Caleb wasn't telling the people initially to trust in God. He was telling them to trust in themselves. At this moment, we need to be looking around for those people who have already implemented plans, who have been building people up, and who are telling us to trust ourselves. It can be difficult to hear them over the doomsayers, but they are there, and we must make ourselves their followers. Many of us feel impotent in these times of upheaval or in moments of crisis because we think the problems are too big and we are too small. But I would venture to say that with a very little bit of Googling, each and every one of us could find a group that already exists of people like us, people who need our help, people who need whatever it is you can give. And it may be trite, but it is true that the ocean's power only comes from many individual drops of water. Which then ties into our final lesson from the Parsha this week. The Israelites on the very edge of the promised land decide to listen to the doomsayers, to ignore Caleb and Joshua, the folks with the plan. The Israelites take the cowardly way out, and they beg again to go back to the way that things were while they were enslaved. Now, I want to make sure that this scene is very clear to everyone here, because we often gloss over this part of that text. The Israelites are standing and literally looking into the promised land. They are so close that those scouts went in and came back not only alive, but with incredible bounty. All the people needed was the courage to move forward into something new and something better. And they blow it. The Israelites let their fear take control. And they beg to go back to enslavement, all the way back months into Egypt, rather than to take that single next scary step. And so we hear God's response, which is, fine. You'll die here in the wilderness, having never reached that promised land. And you will be consigning your children to wander for 40 years in the wilderness. For those 40 years, they will raise their own children in this barren land while they wait for you to die. This passage is profoundly disturbing. And many people ask, why is God also punishing the children? It's almost painful to read or to contemplate. Reverend Will Gaffney, a Black womanist biblical scholar, has a unique way of interpreting the biblical texts that are like this. Those awful texts where God seems to celebrate genocide or advocate for slavery. Those texts where God may seem unfair or horrible or violent. I think her interpretation serves us here. She reads those texts not as God punishing us from the top down, but as God explaining the consequences of our actions to us. So God is not the one who is keeping us and our children from the promised land in Reverend Gaffney's reading of the text. God is telling us that since we have given in to the fear for the future, we will cause ourselves to wander aimlessly in terror and discomfort and in the wilderness, away from our promised land, away from our destiny, and away from our future. And because we decided to stubbornly commit to not do that hard thing we know we need to do, even our children will only be able to enter after we are dead and gone. This is our last lesson. That we are called to remember that we are the ones who create and nurture the conditions under which we liberate ourselves and our children. We cannot wait for a Mashiach or for an act of God to save us. We must do what the Israelites did not. We must listen to what we can do. We must look for the leaders in our midst who are already working on empowering us. And we must remember that the price for cowardice or backsliding is one that will not just be paid by us. It will also be paid by our children. So we must move forward. I think this is what Rabbi Hillel meant when he advised us almost 2,000 years ago that in a place where there is no humanity, be human. The price for remaining in place is too steep, not just for us, but for our children and their children. So here at the end of this hard week, I wish all of you a Shabbat that surrounds you with the love and the support and everything that you need to become ready and resolute for the days ahead of us. Chazak v'amatz, friend. Be strong and be courageous. Shabbat shalom.
At this time, we turn to Aleinu, and it is my great pleasure to welcome up the increasingly mobile Marilyn Roberts. If you are able, please rise.
Are you her support mommy? Yes, because she can't make it.
I look like I'm support. It's good. I like it.
The bottom of the page.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu veharatzot, velo samanu mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. When may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. At this time we recall those whose presence in our community is only in a memory. This Shabbat, we are remembering Bob Carroll, Reverend Dr. Gunther Wasserberg, Jim Ballantyne,
Eli Kane, David Stucker, Terry Gregory, Grayson Corbett, Joan F. Nutkin, Andrew Venuti, Gerald Kaufman, Goldie Brewstein, Lucille Alexander, Stanley Browdy, Edna Bailey, Jenna Deborah Danif Cassell, Will Spiegelman, Leonard Fusari, James Holly, Ken Hecht, Roberta Smallrich, Edward Gingold, Cookie Javinsky. And this Shabbat, we commemorate the artzites of Paula Labko, Paul Rubin, Sharon Westaby, Albert Langer, David Anger, Helen Brewstein, Mildred Friedman, William Lordier, Harold Fox, Gil Israel Gaffney, Shirley Silverman, Ethel Frankel, Ida Stuchinsky Minkoff, Nathan Nussbaum, Annette Rutkovitz, Stephen Goldberg, and Jenny Riker. If there are other names that you wish to add, I invite you to do so in the comments if you're online or when my eyes meet yours. For all those names and all those memories, Kadisha Tome can be found on page 294. If it is your custom, please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah v'varach le'olam u'olmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kedusha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael V'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and all who mourn. And together we say, amen. You may be seated. All right.
Jen, I'm going to do the announcements because I was wrong. We didn't fix the announcements. Thanks to Crystal and Marilyn and Ken for co-hosting this week's Oneg in celebration of Crystal's 20th bat mitzvah anniversary and Ken and Marilyn's wedding anniversary. How many? 48. 40. Ooh. All right, so we're getting ready for. Yeah, that's probably good. That's all for the best. Yeah, we're aware. Thanks to this week's greeter, Jen Wulf. And also to Tova McGilvray for running our live stream tech. If you would like to join our live stream tech team, please contact Michael Gordon at president@sinaireno.org. We're always looking for a couple more people. It's super easy. If you can unlock your phone, you can run our live stream. For those of us who are here in person, join us after service for challah and juice and our oneg in the social hall. There are plenty of opportunities to host an oneg, whatever the occasion, birthdays, anniversaries, trolling your friends, anything is an acceptable reason to celebrate. You can sign up. We've got a sign up in the temple kitchen or online at sinaireno.org/oneg. For everyone who's online, please join us on Zoom for a virtual Oneg with live video after service. You can visit sinaireno.org/live for all of the details on how to sign in to our Yisma Zoom, and we will stop by to say hi at the kind of midway through the Yisma Zoom. Tomorrow morning, as is our tradition at 10 a.m., our Torah study is happening via Zoom. We have gotten all the way to Genesis 41:57. It's only taken us 2.5 years. We are studying the Torah verse by verse with all of our medieval commentarians and our modern commentarians alongside us. Anyone is welcome to join. You do not have to be a member. You do not even have to be in the Pacific time zone. We've got plenty of people. We've got people from Missouri and people from Massachusetts, and it's a really fun virtual group. Please join us. Coffee and pajamas is acceptable. Join us at sinaireno.org/Torah study. No prior experience is necessary with Torah study. Everyone is welcome. For the next couple of weeks, we've got a couple of things coming up. On Sunday at 2, we have a special sisterhood event for the Jewish community in the social hall. Sisterhood will provide coffee, purchase pastries, and paper goods with featured guest author Henry Michalski. There is a promo ad at sinaireno.org with all the details. Next Friday, we will have our Tat Shabbat service in person only. Our services next week are going to be at Callahan Park in South Reno. So if you have little ones, please bring them out at 5:30 for some songs and prayers and maybe a story too. And if you are a little older, kid or not, please join us at Callahan Park in Galena, which is in South Reno, at 6 p.m. for our Shabbat Under the Stars. This is a quick outdoor musical service and a bring your own picnic so that we can all hang out outside and enjoy one another's company and celebrate Shabbat together. And one of my favorite things about Galena Park is that there's no cell phone service. At least I don't have cell phone service. So it's a really great way to kind of get away for an evening, hang out with people like in person in a safe and distanced way. So let's celebrate Shabbat together and enjoy the outdoors. The weekend of July 8th, we are looking forward to the B'nai Mitzvah of Noah and Ari Friedman. They are going to be sponsoring our Oneg. This is going to be a super fun, twin bar mitzvahs are always super fun. This one is going to be extra fun. So please join us at 10 a.m. on Sunday, July 9th, as Ari and Noah become bar mitzvah at 10 a.m. Saturday the 9th. Yeah, we don't have services on Sunday. I was looking at the next one, which is 10 a.m. Sunday, July 10th. We have an all hands on deck mitzvah day. We are doing a mitzvah day with our social action committee and with Sinai School. We have a need for heavy lifters and people to do lighter projects. We are giving the school a deep clean and rearranging some furniture so that our classrooms are in tip-top shape in anticipation of the fall semester. We are also providing lunch. So come on by. Hello, if you want to bring some friends who can, right, college guys lifting stuff, that'd be great. And as always, if you'd like to donate, you can always donate at sinaireno.org/donate. And if you'd like to become a member, sinaireno.org/membership. Did I miss anything? I think that's a lot. Good. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are going to sing our final song, which can be found on page 294. Oh, nope, that's not. That's the Mortis Kaddish. We're not singing that. 321. Okay, here we go. Ooh.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefzoko Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimlo יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, מעת נעשה בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי כתבות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמזרח. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי ויצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת חוסי ביום נקרא. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמזרח. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי ויצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת חוסי ביום נקרא. בידו הפקיד רוחי, בעת תשען והעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. בידו הפקיד רוחי, בעת תשען והעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, מעת נעשה בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, מעת נעשה בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll see you at the Oneg.
Shabbat Shalom.